Hey there. Welcome back to Bedtime Cozy Tales. I'm glad you made it here tonight. You've probably had one of those days, the kind where your brain feels like it's running 5 tabs at once, all buffering. But now, we're going to close them one by one, slowly, until it's just you, the sound of the ocean, and this soft little story about nothing urgent at all. So, if you haven't already, dim the lights, find your favorite pillow situation, maybe stretch out a little, and take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. There we go. You've done enough today. The world can wait until morning. Tonight's story drifts us somewhere calm, somewhere where time moves like the tide. We're heading to a tiny seaside town, a sleepy place tucked between salt air and faded postcards, where the ocean hums like a lullaby and the people move just a little slower than the rest of the world. Let's call it Mirren Bay. Not famous, not particularly pretty in a travel brochure kind of way, but there's something about it, a quiet honesty, the kind of town that smells like coffee and rain on wooden decks. It's late evening there now. The sun has already melted into the horizon, leaving behind that in-between light, the one that's not quite night, but not day either. The sea glows like it's been brushed with silver. A few gulls call lazily, and the sound echoes over the calm water. Out on the old pier, there's a man named Theo. He's the kind of person who still wears cable-knit sweaters in summer because he claims the ocean always has a chill, which in fairness, it kind of does. He runs a little shop by the harbor called Driftwood Things, where he sells, well, driftwood things, lamps, signs, weird sculptures that look vaguely like whales if you squint. Theo has lived here for decades, ever since he retired early, which seems to be local code for left the city after one too many meetings that could have been emails. Tonight, he's sitting on a bench near the pier, sipping tea from a chipped mug. The mug says, "Best grandpa ever," but as far as anyone knows, Theo doesn't have kids. He just liked the mug. The waves slide against the dock with a soft rhythm, like breathing in, out, in, out. He listens. That's his evening ritual, listening to the ocean until his thoughts quiet down. And if you're listening too, maybe your thoughts can start to drift along with his. The thing about Mirren Bay is that everyone there seems to move to the rhythm of the sea. Take Mrs. Hallow, for instance, the town librarian who insists that sea air improves concentration. Though no one's quite sure what she's concentrating on, she keeps the library doors open all day, letting in the sound of waves and the occasional seagull who thinks he's entitled to literature. Or there's June, the baker, who wakes up before dawn to make lemon scones that smell like sunlight. She hums sea shanties under her breath, though she's never actually been on a boat. Her shop window fogs up every morning, glowing golden when the sunrise hits it. It's the unofficial town alarm clock. Even the old lighthouse, half retired, like Theo, still flickers faintly at night. The Coast Guard doesn't need it anymore, but they leave it on for tradition and maybe for the ghosts. If you believe in that sort of thing, Theo doesn't, really. But sometimes, when the wind changes direction, he swears he hears singing from the rocks beyond the harbor. Not loud, just faint, like someone humming an old song underwater. He used to joke it was the mermaids doing karaoke, but lately he doesn't joke about it as much. It's easier to just let it be part of the night. He leans back on the bench, the boards creaking softly under him. The tea is still warm. The air smells like salt and pine resin. Somewhere in the distance, a whale exhales, a long, slow sigh that ripples across the bay. Theo smiles. "Same, buddy," he murmurs. "Let's float a little closer now, not to Theo, but to the water itself. Imagine it, dark and glassy, carrying small reflections of starlight like tiny lanterns. Every ripple holds its own memory of storms that passed, of ships that sank, of sunlight that once danced on the surface. There's something almost human about the ocean. It gets moody, restless. Sometimes it whispers, sometimes it roars. But tonight, it's calm, content, breathing easy. And beneath that calm surface, life continues quietly. A school of fish flickers by like liquid silver. A jellyfish pulses gently, glowing faint blue in the dark. Even the barnacles, clinging to the pier, seem half asleep. It's strange how peaceful it feels. This idea that the world keeps moving, even when no one's watching. Theo knows this too. He's spent years collecting stories from the ocean, old sailors' tales, washed up bottles, the occasional piece of sea glass shaped like a heart. He keeps them all in a little box under his counter, labeled Fragments of the Sea. Sometimes, when tourists stop by and ask what he sells, he just smiles and says, "Memories, polished by salt." They usually nod politely and leave because they don't get it. But that's fine. Mirren Bay doesn't need to be understood. It just needs to be. Now the tide starts to rise, slowly. It always does this time of night. The water slips under the dock, tapping softly against the wooden posts. Theo listens again. The rhythm never changes, no matter how many years go by. In a world that's always rushing somewhere, that kind of consistency feels rare, comforting, like a heartbeat. If you close your eyes now, you might almost hear it yourself. The slow pulse of the waves, the whisper of wind through the grass, the faint clang of a buoy out in the distance, all blending together into one long exhale. Let's stay here a while. Let your body grow heavy, like driftwood, floating just below the surface. No effort, no control, just drifting. Theo finishes his tea, sets the mug beside him, and watches the lighthouse blink lazily in the distance. It's like the night itself is blinking. Half awake, half asleep. He hums a little, a tune he doesn't quite remember where he learned. Something about sailors and the stars. And as the waves lap softly at the shore, he feels it. The quiet that comes when you finally stop trying to think. The same quiet that's starting to reach you now. Because really, that's what the ocean teaches. That it's okay to let go. To stop holding every thought so tightly. To trust that things will find their rhythm again, even if you drift a bit. So, as we stay here in Mirren Bay a little longer, Just breathe. Let the sound of the water carry you. Let the weight of the day sink beneath the surface. Tomorrow will come. It always does. But tonight, the sea has you. The moon has climbed higher now, a soft pearl in the sky, pulling silver across the surface of the bay. The air has cooled just a little, enough to make Theo pull his sweater closer around his shoulders. The fabric smells faintly of cedar and salt, like everything in Mirren Bay eventually does. He takes one last slow sip from his mug, the tea now barely warm, and sets it beside him on the bench. The tide is higher than before, licking at the pier's lower planks. Every gentle wave sounds like a sigh. If you listen closely, you might notice that no two waves sound quite the same. Some have a soft hiss, like a secret. Others slap the wood with a sleepy sort of persistence, like they're too tired to really commit to crashing. That's the rhythm of the bay. Steady, imperfect, and always there. A few streets back from the water, the town of Mirren Bay is settling in for the night. The last cafe light flickers out. Someone locks a shop door with that distinct metal clink that echoes down the street, and somewhere a dog lets out one half-hearted bark before curling up again. The whole town feels wrapped in cotton, quiet, padded, slow. Theo gets up from the bench and starts walking toward home. His shoes scuff softly against the wooden boards. He takes his time. There's no such thing as hurry in Mirren Bay after dark. The path winds along the edge of the water, passing the line of boats tied up for the night. Most of them haven't left the dock in months, but no one seems to mind. A few old fishermen still come by at dawn, talking to the sea like it's an old friend with selective hearing. Theo reaches one of his favorite spots, a rickety old lamppost right by the harbor wall. It's been leaning at a slightly alarming angle for at least 20 years, but every time the town talks about fixing it, someone just says, leave it. It's got character. The light buzzes softly, moths dance in the halo, and beneath it, the water glimmers like melted glass. Theo stands there for a while, watching his own reflection ripple and disappear with each wave. Then he says quietly, "Good night, old friend," though he's not entirely sure who he's saying it to. Maybe the ocean, maybe himself. He keeps walking, turning down a narrow lane that smells faintly of baking and salt. This is Main Street, or as Main as Mirren Bay gets. The street lamps here are dim and yellow, the kind that make everything look a little nostalgic. The windows are full of sleepy signs, closed for the evening. Back after sunrise, there's June's Bakery, with a tray of leftover croissants cooling by the window. She always leaves a few out for the night cats. Right now, one of them, an enormous orange creature named Captain, is halfway through a pastry, purring like a distant motor. Theo pauses to scratch behind Captain's ears. The cat doesn't even look up, just flicks his tail as if to say, "Yes, yes, thank you. Proceed." "Rough night?" Theo asks him. Captain responds with a lazy blink. "Same," Theo says. A little further down, the library's big windows glow faintly. Mrs. Hallow, as always, is still inside, reading under the yellow lamp. She's surrounded by stacks of books that seem to form a fortress. If you peeked in, you'd probably see her asleep over some 19th century whaling journal, one finger still marking her place. Theo tips an imaginary hat as he passes. He likes knowing that she's there, quietly reading about sailors who probably also fell asleep to the sound of waves. When he reaches his cottage, the moon has drifted behind a thin veil of clouds. The house is small, perched right above the beach, with white paint that's mostly given up, trying to fight the sea air. Every board creaks in greeting as he walks up the steps. Inside, everything smells faintly of candle wax and salt soap. There's an old record player in the corner, a stack of vinyls that's mostly just ocean sounds and slow jazz. Theo doesn't bother turning on the lights. He doesn't need to. The moonlight through the window is enough. It slides across the floorboards, turning them silver. He sets his mug in the sink, runs a bit of water over it, and then just stands there for a moment, listening to the faint hum of the sea through the walls. The house feels alive in a quiet, reassuring way. Breathing in sync with the waves, he moves to his armchair by the window, the one with the cushion that's flattened just right, and sits. The window looks directly out over the ocean. The view isn't dramatic. No cliffs or storms or cinematic sunsets, just a soft, endless stretch of water fading into the dark. Theo reaches down, opens a drawer, and pulls out his fragments of the sea box. Inside are small, random treasures. A bottle with a faded note inside, some rounded sea glass, a tiny wooden carving of a fish. He picks up the carving. The edges are smooth from years of handling. Someone made it long ago. He doesn't know who. Maybe it washed ashore. Maybe it just appeared one morning, like a gift. He holds it in his palm and lets his thoughts wander. Sometimes he wonders what the ocean remembers. Does it hold on to every moment, every whisper and secret and tear that's ever fallen into it? Or does it forget, washing itself clean each night? It's a comforting thought, that kind of forgetfulness. He looks out at the waves again. They seem to nod back, as if agreeing. Out there in the dark, a soft sound rises, a whale call, deep and mournful, echoing across the bay. It vibrates through the air, through the walls, even through Theo's chest. He closes his eyes. The sound isn't sad, not really. It's ancient, familiar, like the world itself humming a lullaby. Maybe you can feel it too, the vibration of the ocean in your chest. Maybe your breathing is matching its rhythm now. Slow, gentle, in, out, in, out. The whale calls again, lower this time, then silence. Theo sets the carving back in the box and leans his head against the chair. His eyes grow heavy. Outside, the lighthouse blinks in a lazy rhythm. Inside, the clock ticks softly, the sound blending perfectly with the sea's breathing. It's all one slow, endless motion. Mirren Bay sleeps. Even the wind has quieted, settling against the eaves. Somewhere far off, a gull murmurs in its sleep. The boats sway gently, ropes creaking, and the ocean, well, it's still awake, as always, watching, guarding, rocking the world to sleep. Theo finally drifts off, half smiling, maybe dreaming of the sea, or maybe just floating somewhere between thoughts. And for a while, everything is still. Now, as you lie there, you can imagine the whole bay stretching out before you, the sand cool under your feet, the stars scattered across the water, like glitter spilled from some cosmic jar, the slow hush of waves, over and over, until it blurs into something like silence. You might start to feel that same pull, the gentle sway of rest, the quiet rhythm of the tide drawing you in. It's okay to follow it. The night is wide and soft and patient. You don't need to hold on to anything right now. Just breathe, listen, drift. The ocean will remember this for you. And somewhere, beneath that moonlight, Mirren Bay sleeps on. Each wave, each breath, each dream folding gently into the next. The first hint of morning comes quietly, not in color, not yet, just in sound. It's the soft clatter of the tide against the rocks, the kind that tells you the night is giving up its hold. The waves have shifted, still slow, still sleepy, but with a little more intention, as if they're gently stirring the world awake. Out beyond the harbor, a thin band of light begins to form along the horizon. It's pale at first, more suggestion than sunrise. The moon, now faded and shy, drifts behind the clouds, leaving the stage open for dawn. Inside the cottage, Theo stirs, not because of an alarm. He hasn't used one in years, but because the sea always seems to know when he's had enough sleep. It hums through the walls, urging him gently toward wakefulness. He opens his eyes. For a moment, he's not sure what time it is. The air feels heavy and still, like it hasn't made up its mind whether it's night or morning. Then he hears it, the faint call of a gull, the shuffle of sand outside, and the creak of the wooden dock stretching in the cool air. Morning, definitely morning. Theo stays where he is for a while, half awake, staring at the ceiling. It's covered in faint shadows from the window, the reflection of the sea moving across the room in lazy waves. It's his favorite thing about waking up here. The ocean paints a different pattern every day. Eventually, he pushes himself up and goes to the window. Outside, the sky is opening slowly. Colors seep in like watercolor, spreading through paper, lavender, then peach, then a thin wash of gold. The lighthouse's glow is still faintly visible, blinking its last few blinks before the sun takes over. Theo smiles, stretching a little. "You made it through another night," he murmurs, as if congratulating the sea. Down below, the sand looks untouched, except for a single set of footprints winding toward the water. Maybe a fisherman, maybe just someone who couldn't sleep. Mirren Bay has plenty of both. He makes a pot of coffee, strong, dark, slightly overbrewed, the way he likes it, and steps outside. The deckboards are cool under his feet. The air smells like seaweed and the distant rain. It's quiet, peaceful, almost too peaceful. Then, somewhere down the beach, comes the sound of June's laugh, low and warm, carried on the breeze. She's already at her bakery, as always, with her door propped open. Theo can almost smell the lemon scones from here. He raises his mug in salute, though she can't possibly see him. And then, because routine is a sacred thing in Mirren Bay, he takes his usual walk down to the water's edge. The sand gives way beneath each step, soft and cool. The tide is low now, revealing rippled patches of wet earth. Where the sea has retreated, tiny crabs scuttle sideways, looking busy with whatever crab business they have at dawn. The horizon brightens further. The sun peeks out, small, round, and perfectly unbothered. Theo looks out over the bay. The boats are still asleep, bobbing gently, their ropes slack. The water glows in that pale golden way that makes everything feel slightly unreal. And for the first time in hours, the whale sings again, just once, a long, low note that seems to vibrate through the sand, through the soles of Theo's feet, and right into his chest. He closes his eyes, smiling faintly. The sound fades into the distance, swallowed by morning light. He walks along the shoreline, collecting small shells without really meaning to. It's a habit he never broke. His pockets are already full of them. Smooth, white, chipped. But he picks up more anyway. Each one feels different. In his hand, shaped by time and motion. Some are polished smooth, others worn thin like paper. All of them carry a little piece of the sea's history. When he reaches the far end of the beach, he stops at a piece of driftwood that's been sitting there for as long as anyone can remember. It's gray and twisted, like an old hand reaching out of the sand. Someone carved initials into it decades ago, though the letters have blurred with time. He sits there, sipping his coffee, staring out at the water. The sun is higher now, warming his face. The whole bay is shimmering. The lighthouse, stubborn as ever, still blinks faintly in the daylight. Theo breathes deeply, then exhales. It's one of those long, steady breaths that feels like it's emptying more than just your lungs. Behind him, the town begins to stir. A few doors open, a window creaks, the sound of a broom sweeping echoes faintly. Mirren Bay doesn't rush into the day. It just sort of drifts into it, like everything else here. A small fishing boat hums to life in the harbor. Its motor sounds too loud, too eager, but it fades quickly as it heads toward open water. Theo watches it go, the white wake trailing behind like a ribbon. He used to fish years ago. Now he's content just watching others do it. The coffee is gone. The mug feels warm in his hands. He looks down at the sand and notices something he didn't see before. A piece of sea glass, half buried, catching the sunlight. It's an odd color, soft blue, like sky mixed with milk. He picks it up and turns it over in his hand. It's smooth, perfectly shaped by the ocean. No sharp edges, no flaws. He smiles. "All right," he says softly. "You can come home with me." He slips it into his pocket, stands, and starts the slow walk back toward the cottage. On the way, he passes the baker's shop again. June is outside now, sweeping the front step. "Morning, Theo," she calls, smiling. "Morning," he replies. "Sleep well?" "Like driftwood," he says. She laughs. "So, not great, but at least peaceful." "Exactly." He keeps walking, hands in his pockets, listening to the rhythm of his steps and the sea's faint echo behind them. When he reaches home, he places the piece of sea glass in his box of fragments. It fits perfectly among the others, like it had been waiting for its place all along. The morning light fills the room now, bright and clean. Dust motes float lazily in the air, moving with the same rhythm as everything else here. Theo sits back in his chair and looks out at the horizon. The ocean stretches endlessly, calm and blue, pretending to be simple. He knows better. The ocean is never really still. It's always thinking, always remembering. And yet, somehow, it lets go of everything. Every tide erases what came before, without bitterness. Theo closes his eyes. The warmth on his skin, the hush of the sea, the faint hum of the world waking up, all of it folds into a soft, dreamlike quiet. You can almost feel it too, can't you? That stillness that isn't really still. That peace that hums beneath everything. It's the same calm that waits for you when you stop trying to chase it. Let your breath match the sea again. In and out, in and out. The light grows brighter, but the world remains gentle. The day ahead is waiting, but not pressing. Mirren Bay lives like this, between motion and rest, between waking and dreaming. And maybe, somewhere deep down, so do we. Theo opens his eyes one last time. The ocean is still there, of course. It always is. He smiles faintly and whispers, "See you tonight." Then he leans back, lets the sunlight rest on his face, and lets the day begin. By mid-morning, Mirren Bay has fully woken, though, to be honest, it never does so quickly. The town rises like the tide, one small ripple at a time. The streets are still quiet. A single truck rolls past, its tires crunching over gravel, the sound fading almost as soon as it appears. The gulls have claimed their usual spots on the rooftops, eyeing the bakery door like hawks with less self-control. The sun sits comfortably low, not too harsh yet, spilling light that makes everything look cleaner than it probably is. Even the salt-stained windows of the harbor shops gleam faintly. Theo is sitting outside his store, driftwood things, on a wooden chair that's definitely older than he is. His shop doesn't technically open until 10, but people wander in whenever they feel like it. The sign on the door reads, "Open." Probably. It's not meant as a joke. It's just true. He's whittling a piece of driftwood that vaguely resembles a dolphin, though honestly, it might end up being something else entirely. The shape usually decides itself. Across the street, June leans in her bakery doorway, holding a cup of coffee that's probably gone cold by now. She waves lazily. Theo waves back. That's the full extent of their morning conversation, most days. Down the hill, the fishermen are arguing, loudly, but without real heat, about which direction the wind is blowing. It's an argument they have every morning, and somehow, it's never resolved. Life in Mirren Bay moves this way. Predictable, looping, pleasantly dull, and maybe that's what keeps everyone here. A few tourists show up around noon. They usually come in pairs, hand-holding couples or quiet backpackers who seem half surprised the town exists at all. They take photos of the boats, buy a cookie from June, and maybe stop by Theo's shop because it smells like salt and nostalgia. Theo never tries to sell them anything. He just lets them wander. He knows most of them aren't really looking for souvenirs. They're looking for stillness, and that's free. One woman, wearing a floppy hat and big round sunglasses, picks up a small carving from the counter. It's shaped like a whale, smoothed from years of handling. "This one's lovely," she says. "How much?" Theo shrugs. "Make an offer." She blinks. "Oh, 10. He nods. "Sure." She looks almost disappointed, like she expected a story to go with it. As she's about to leave, he adds, "That one washed ashore last winter." She turns, interested again. "The carving?" Theo smiles faintly. "No, the wood." She laughs politely, not entirely sure if he's serious. No one ever is with Theo. When she's gone, the shop is quiet again, the kind of quiet that hums softly, like a warm silence. The sunlight filters through the front window, catching the tiny dust motes dancing in the air. They move lazily, almost musically, keeping time with the sea outside. Theo finishes his carving. It doesn't really look like a dolphin or a fish or anything specific. He decides to call it undecided. He places it on the shelf beside the others. The almost whale, leftover mermaid tail, and seagull with existential crisis. Naming them is half the fun. He stands for a moment, looking out the window. The water beyond the pier sparkles in that half-dazzling way that makes you squint. A sailboat drifts lazily toward the horizon. Its white canvas puffed out like it's showing off. He can hear the wind picking up just a little. The air smells sharper now, saltier, cleaner, a little more alive. June walks by, holding a basket of bread wrapped in cloth. "Deliveries?" Theo asks. "Bribes," she says. "The lighthouse keeper fixed my radio." Theo nods approvingly. "Bread diplomacy. Always works. Want a loaf? Only if it's the kind that forgives my cooking." She laughs. "Then you'll need two." When she's gone, Theo locks up the shop for an hour and heads down to the dock. That's his unofficial lunch break. He sits with his legs dangling over the water, watching the reflections shift. The boats rock gently, ropes groaning against the wood. Somewhere behind him, the gulls have found something to fight about. Probably a sandwich wrapper. He eats half the bread June gave him, the crust still warm. He doesn't bother with butter or plates. Around here, food tastes better with sea air anyway. Out of the corner of his eye, he notices something moving in the water. A small dark shape just below the surface. Maybe a seal, maybe just seaweed, but for a moment, it looks like it's watching him. "Don't start," he says quietly. "I'm not sharing." The shape disappears, leaving a few soft ripples behind. He smiles, taking another bite. Thought so. After lunch, he walks along the beach. The tide has come back in now, smoothing over the morning's footprints. The waves make that steady hush again, rolling in and out like breath. If you've ever stood beside the ocean during the day, you know that it's a different kind of calm. Not the sleepy calm of night, but something rhythmic, awake, but not in a hurry. The sea glints so brightly that it almost looks like it's laughing. Theo picks up a small piece of wood, washed up on shore, smooth and pale. He turns it in his hand, already imagining what it might become. Maybe a bird, maybe nothing, doesn't matter. He pockets it and keeps walking. Further down the beach, near the cliffs, sits the lighthouse. It's smaller than people expect, more of a glorified tower than a sweeping monument, but it's reliable, always has been. The keeper, old Marlowe, is sitting out front in a lawn chair, wearing a hat that might once have been white. He's got a small radio beside him, crackling faintly with static and sea weather reports that no one listens to anymore. Theo waves as he approaches. Marlowe tips his hat. "Morning, Theo." "It's afternoon," Marlowe shrugs. "Not for me." Theo sits beside him. They both watch the horizon for a while, without saying anything, the kind of silence between old friends that doesn't need to be filled. "Whale came through again last night," Theo says eventually. Marlowe nods. "Heard it. Thought it was my stomach. Sounded almost happy this time. Maybe he found someone to talk to," Marlowe says, squinting into the sun. "Wouldn't blame him. Gets lonely out there." Theo glances at him. "Out there or up here?" Marlowe chuckles. "Either way." The two men sit there for a while, listening to the soft hum of the wind and the steady splash of waves against the rocks. It's strange how the ocean can sound so similar, yet never the same. Some days it's a whisper, other days it's a heartbeat. Today, it's somewhere in between. Theo finishes the last of his bread and stands. "Need anything from town?" "Just another radio that doesn't think it's a seagull," Marlowe grumbles. Theo grins. "I'll see what I can do." The walk back feels slower, heavier in that good way. The sunlight has mellowed, the air warmer now. The water glitters, like it's proud of something. By the time Theo returns to his shop, the tourists are gone. The streets are quiet again. June has closed up for the afternoon nap she claims she doesn't take. Theo unlocks the door, steps inside, and lets the familiar smell of wood and salt wrap around him. He places the driftwood on his workbench and runs a finger along its surface. He starts carving again, slowly, rhythmically, the knife gliding through the wood in time with the waves outside. Each scrape releases a faint scent of cedar and sea. Each curve feels like it's already been there, just waiting for him to uncover it. The day hums on like that, steady, unremarkable, quietly perfect. Outside, the tide shifts again. The gulls quiet down. The boats bump softly against the dock. Theo doesn't notice how long he's been working. Time in Mirren Bay isn't measured by clocks anyway. It's measured by light. By the way, the sea changes color by how many waves pass before the air cools again. When he finally looks up, the sunlight has turned gold. Shadows stretch long and slow across the floor. The day has exhaled, and somewhere out there, the ocean hums again, low and endless, as if reminding everyone that it's still here. Theo sets down his carving, wipes his hands on his apron, and listens. The tide is rising, the evening is returning, and all of Mirren Bay, once again, begins to slow. Let's drift back now to that quiet stretch of coast, the one where the ocean sighs against the rocks and the horizon looks almost tired of being so endless. You've walked a long way tonight, haven't you? Barefoot, soft sand under your toes, salt in your hair, the kind of night that doesn't ask for anything. And up ahead, there it is, A lighthouse, old, a little crooked, like it's seen too much weather, and decided to just lean into it. The light spins lazily, casting long ribbons of gold across the water. Every few seconds, the beam sweeps across your face. Not bright, just warm, and then it fades again into the dark. You climb the worn stone steps, one slow step after another. They creak a bit, and the air smells faintly of rust and oil. Someone once kept this light burning every night. Maybe an old sailor who didn't really mind being alone. Maybe he had a kettle and a cat. Maybe he talked to himself sometimes, because who else would? You reach the top and find the little glass room surrounded by stars. The lens turns with a low hum, a sound that might just put you right to sleep if you stood there long enough. You can almost hear the faint rhythm of the machinery, working without rush, like a heartbeat slowed by the sea air. Outside, waves crash against the cliffs, but from up here it sounds far away, almost like the ocean is whispering under its breath, and you think, yeah, this is what peace feels like. A little loneliness, a little salt, and a lot of quiet. There's a chair by the window. You sit down, the wood cool against your palms. The chair rocks a little with the wind, and from here you can see everything. The curve of the shore, the endless sweep of dark water, and the occasional gleam of a whale surfacing far out at sea. They move so slowly, like they have nowhere to be, which is probably true. You imagine their deep, echoing songs beneath the waves, those low, vibrating notes that sound like the ocean dreaming. It's said that whales can hear each other across entire oceans. Imagine that, conversations floating quietly through the water, over miles and miles of blue. Maybe they talk about the same things we do, where to find warmth, where the currents feel gentle, where the stars look best from below. The air inside the lighthouse is still. You watch the light spin again, tracing the inside of the glass, brushing across your face like a soft, golden hand. The old journal you found earlier is still there, open to a page with smudged ink and neat cursive. Wind from the west again, it says. Waves unusually calm. Saw the whale this morning. The big one moved like a thought, passing through the sea. You smile at that. Somehow, it feels like the kind of thing you'd write too. If you lived here, not much else to say, just saw the whale again. You close the journal and set it aside. The beam of light passes over the page one last time, then fades. Outside, the ocean continues its sleepy conversation with the shore. Each wave saying something, the next one answers. You can almost hear it, soft, repeating, like a mantra. Come closer, stay still, let go. Let's stay here a while. No rush. The sea doesn't care about time, and neither should you. You rest your head against the window frame, eyes half closed. The sound of the wind pressing against the glass blends with the slow rhythm of the waves below. It's all one sound now, a steady, soothing hush. And maybe, if you listen close enough, you can hear the faint hum of the whale, songs far beneath. They rise and fall like breathing, and if you were to drift off now, if your thoughts started to float like sea foam. That would be perfectly fine, because this place was always meant for that. The slow fading, the gentle undoing, the moment between awake and asleep where the ocean feels like it's carrying you. The lighthouse keeper knew that too, once. That's why the light turned so slowly. Not to warn anyone, just to remind them, even in the dark, something is still moving. So, let's float with it. The hum of the lamp, the whisper of the tide, the occasional call of a seabird, somewhere far off, all of it folding into one sleepy rhythm that makes it impossible to hold on to any sharp thought. You breathe in, salt and wind. You breathe out, quiet and warmth. The chair rocks again. The light spins. And below, the waves keep their patient conversation. We'll leave the lighthouse soon, but not yet. For now, just listen. The sea is still talking, and it's saying, rest.